Welcome to African Americans Anonymous. I am your anonymous host. And today we've got a topic for you don't want to miss. The question today is NBA officiating a problem? More to come after this. Thank you. Welcome back to African Americans Anonymous. I talk about the things that Black people want to talk about but feel that they can't without getting fired, fined, or fried in public perception. And I saw our brother Jaylen Brown in a state of frustration at work talking about these refs. And I said, you lying to me. Because he had legit concerns and questions about NBA officiating, but him even saying anything will result in a fine. Let's talk about you, NBA. Is your officiating a problem? Let's look at it from a historical lens. In 2008, Tim Donaghy was convicted. He was convicted of conspiracy to engage in wire fraud and conspiracy to transmit wagering information. He admitted to placing bets on games in which he officiated as early as 2005 and 2006 and 7. Let's talk about Chris Paul and Scott Foster. Chris Paul's average in playoff games when Scott Foster is officiating his games is 3-17. That's 17.56% for a winning average. Very low. In contrast, when Scott Foster is not officiating a Chris Paul playoff game, Chris Paul's average is 73.56. as of a report in 2023. Since the implementation of the last 2-minute report, there have been 3 notable games in which huge calls were missed. In the Knicks versus Pistons game in March 2024, the report confirmed a non-call on Knicks guard Jaylen Brunson, which should have resulted in a foul, costing the Pistons a chance to win. In October 2024, Timberwolves versus Mavericks, the report showed 3 missed calls in a 16-second span late in the fourth quarter, including a missed illegal screen. And most recently, the Pacers versus Cavaliers. The report admitted to multiple missed lane violations on a free throw sequence in the final minute. The outcomes of this, no change in the game result, despite the missed calls. So let's talk about it. NBA is officiating a problem. It's a problem in that it is impacting the product of the game and the way in which fans consume the game. There have been more complaints in recent decades about not being able to trust the product of basketball from the NBA, especially given the advent of sports betting as a part of a revenue stream for the league. I believe, and this is an aside, but I believe that the implementation of sports betting will cost the NBA more money than it was able to gain from the partnerships with these betting companies. I'm perceiving that. It's going to cost them a lot. It's costing you reputation. It's going to cost you all of these things for that quick cash that you got, right? So if you were the NBA, what are you looking at? You're looking at how can I maintain the public perception? How can I leverage the things that David Stern did, who was a genius marketer? I might do an entire video about David Stern, genius marketer. How do we leverage and make sure we keep the public perception positive? Another thing that is happening in the NBA is there is lesser viewership. Viewership is declining. We were talking about ratings, streaming, etc., whatever. Viewership is declining. And yes, we can attribute it to people are not sitting down and watching television anymore. We can say, yes, people are picking up streaming platforms. But when you have an NBA commissioner, when asked about how fans are having a hard time being able to watch games, and he says they can just watch the highlights on YouTube, it doesn't seem like to me that that person really understands the fans and how the fans want to interact with the product. So, from a public perception standpoint, if fans feel like a game is rigged, that might be one of the reasons why they're not going to be willing to spend that extra $10 on that third streaming platform just to watch a game. Talking about public perception. So, NBA fans, real fans, we don't want betting. We don't want gambling on games. We want the integrity of the sport to be intact. The next thing we do not want, we agree with you, Adam Silver, Deputy Commissioner, I agree with you. I do not want to hear my favorite basketball player complaining about officiating. But you know what's going to stop the complaints? Not fining them. What's going to stop the complaints is you getting better at officiating. So I'm seeing in all of these cases, particularly in the last 2-minute reports, that's a great thing to be implemented. But if there's no change to the end game, there's no accountability. And if you're going to privatize a discipline that has happened, and if we can't see their performance ratings, there's no accountability. My question is, what is the third party organization that's able to see their performance reviews? If we can see, every little injury that a player has, which is really a HIPAA violation, if you ask me, it kind of is a HIPAA violation. We should be able to see if Scott Foster's officiating rating is below average. We should be able to see that. And I'm going to try to contain myself because I have been watching Chris Paul for 20 years. I've been watching him play basketball for 20 years. This man has given his life to the game of basketball. He risks his health, travels the world, gets on planes, does what he does to play basketball to make you money, NBA. And we have Scott Foster, who has inserted himself into the zeitgeist as Chris Paul's arch nemesis foe. The fact of the matter is, if this were a hostile working environment and we see two employees, or we see a manager and an employee, or we see manager going at it, or having contentious interactions, that organization is not doing its due diligence by allowing that tension to persist. What do I mean by that? It is now a conflict of interest. Once we have received this information, Chris Paul has reported Scott Foster. He's had conversations with the league. These are not things that he's just going off on and getting fined talking about to the media. He has gone through the proper channels to ensure that the games that he plays in are officiated with integrity. What does the NBA do instead? We hear you, Chris, but there's nothing we can do about it. You are making that a very hostile working environment for Chris Paul. He's already going to be on edge. Scott Foster is going to be upset because you reported me. What in the mess? That is terrible management of this situation, and it should not persist another year. And we see Chris Paul in the final years of his career. I do not want to see Chris Paul get to the playoffs, say we're playing for the San Antonio Spurs, and him miss out on the championship because Scott Foster is officiating the last games of the NBA Finals. And if you do that, NBA, I will try to sue you myself as a fan. I'm just letting you know that. So there's some management issues that I'm seeing from the NBA. There's a lot of digital scrutiny, but it's honestly warranted. There's so much subjectivity when it comes to officiating. The technical files can be used as a weapon, the inconsistency in calls, the last 2-minute report, there's no real true retribution, justice, or anything that can happen in that 2-minute report. We don't even know if the officials' ratings are really getting impacted or not. It's all privatized. And yes, digital scrutiny. But in order for us as NBA fans, all of us, we need to speak up and speak out and let the NBA know we are tired of this. If this means, hey, I'm not subscribing, yeah, I am going to watch your stuff on YouTube because I'm not subscribing, I'm not paying for this until you all implement something better than what you're implementing. You're not letting your players talk about officiating. So who can hold you accountable? As fans, we can hold the NBA accountable. I don't ever want to see an incredibly bright player like Jaylen Brown lose another cent because he needs to speak out about officiating in the NBA. This dude plays the right way. He doesn't, for the most part, he has had something make you question, but it's not a pattern for him. He doesn't make it a practice. The NBA needs to hold itself accountable, or it will continue to lose money. So I'm going to say what Jaylen Brown can't say in my final closing here. NBA players risk their lives, they risk their health to play the game of basketball for the NBA. They are the product. They are the reason why every official has a job. They are the reason why every commissioner and deputy commissioner and co-commissioner and every lead, every lawyer has a job in the NBA. For him not to be able to express how he feels about officiating is absolutely wrong, and it is akin to slavery, and I said that. I'm gonna read you his quote. Man, y'all gonna get me fined because you can't have a mistake like that as an official at that point in the game. It's the fourth quarter. The whole staff blows the bleep call. You know what I mean? It cost us a game. Unacceptable. He also said, you can make mistakes at any point in the game, but right there, that wasn't good. That was unacceptable. And then they're telling me like, oh, we didn't see it. How did none of you see it? You can't trip somebody in the fourth quarter and then just be a no call. It's some bull expletive. Jaylen Brown is expected to be fined. Fines of similar offenses, such as a recent one for Anthony Edwards, have been substantial, $75,000. This man was willing to risk $75,000 that he could have given to charity or paid a bill or supported someone or paid his own bills in order to express a frustration about something that's going on in his workplace. And I'm going to say what Jaylen Brown can't, okay? The FBI needs to investigate the NBA from top to bottom. Jaylen Brown can't say that, but I can. The official explanation, crew chief Kevin Scott later stated that the crew observed both George and their slip on the court before any contact. That is why a foul was not called. That's not good enough. The incident in question is in the final minute of a very close game. Jaylen Brown was driving towards the basket with the Celtics clinging to a 1-point lead. Jazz guard Keontae George slipped and fell, causing him to trip Brown. Brown lost the ball, resulting in a turnover that led directly to a go-ahead score for the Jazz. Yeah, I'm going to say what Jaylen Brown can't say. That's unacceptable. Those referees should be held accountable. This is the integrity of a sport that we all pay money to see, that these individuals give of their blood, sweat, and tears to play, spend time away from their families, and yes, they are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, but there are some things in life are absolutely priceless. And so, while we want to hold people accountable like Chauncey Billups, and want to hold people accountable like other individuals that have been caught up in the recent FBI investigation, I think these people should be held accountable. And simply saying, oh, I didn't know, I didn't see it, it's not going to cut for us anymore. It's not going to fly. It's time for the NBA to step up and be the organization we need to be. Jaylen Brown can't say it, but I can, because you're watching African Americans Anonymous.